about it. What's going on in the church? Yeah, we talk about it. How to make money? Yeah, we talk about it. Facebook, yeah, yeah. IG, Twitter, Periscope. Ooh, we streaming, yeah. You can catch CEOs. What can you see? Talking about the hot topics, my girl. Yeah. What can you see? Talking about the hot topics.
I know y'all are saying it's Sunday. Why is she here? Because I'm going to hang out with someone today who has a little insight on producing, copywriting, and different things. And I want to come today to bring a little knowledge to some of my friends in the business that always ask me questions that I may not have the full answer to. So here it is. Everyone asks me questions, and whenever I say, who's your pro? Copyrights and things like that, I could never give a full answer. Even though I know a little, I don't know a lot. So I'm bringing in a professional tonight to talk to y'all, to give y'all insight. So listen, whether you're watching on the live or whether you watch it on the replay, hit like and share. Also, do me a favor. Go over to Keeping It Real in the Gospel on YouTube and follow me. Subscribe to my YouTube page. I'm trying to build that up, y'all. Help me out just a little bit. Go over to Keeping It Real in the Gospel and subscribe to my YouTube channel, please, and thank you. So without further ado, I just want to listen, I want to tell y'all, right? I'm so excited because I'm talking in Canadian time. Huh? We have UEC songwriter. Let's just listen. Y'all reading it? Well, that's his partner, but I'm with UEC tonight. They create, record, ignite, track music, ops music, and they are doing so much in the industry and helping people out in their platform. So tonight, without further ado, because I told him and I promised him I would not hold him hostage, we're going to bring in the man himself. Sir, how are you?
How's it going, Kenya? You good?
Oh God, your sound is so nice.
I really love the intro to your show. Had me vibing. Who was doing that?
That is Otis Flowers. Actually, I'm gonna tell you a little short story about that. I called Otis because I said, Otis, I need an intro. And he was like, what you need? He said, what you want to say? I said, well, you know what I do, right? This was at about 3:00 in the afternoon. He called me back and said, hey, sis, check your website about 4. And at 4:00, he sent it back over to me. So that gave me, because my show starts at 7, that gave me about 2 hours to put all the images and everything together. But within that little bit of time, that young man went into his home studio and made that. His name is Otis Flowers, and the boy can sing.
Better give Otis his flowers. It's good stuff.
I told him that. I say, Otis, we got to get you now. See, now you've heard it in Canada.
I have. See? I have. Your broadcast has reached Toronto, in fact. So that's really good. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on tonight. Because when I did meet you on Clubhouse. That's like I seem to live there now because so much stuff is going on. Especially, I saw you was in the room I was in yesterday all day long with over 8,000 people. Then they had a spillover room for another 12,000 people. And this is what's so important about this industry, that if this room doesn't fill up after yesterday, they're crazy.
It really I love how interactive of a platform it is and how accessible it makes everybody. It's almost like it levels the playing field a lot of the time when your product is good and you have something that is broadcast ready or market ready. It is a great place to end up meeting somebody who could make a decision that could change your life. So it's been a blast, as I'm sure you've had great times on it, and it really kind of shows how if all that's missing is a little bit of networking in your life, right? Like some people have, the product is not quite there, or if they're trying to do if they're trying to get into acting, maybe their reel or their demo is not quite there. But if it is, and there's the preparation's been done, you can meet certain people who, if you're ready, they're ready. And then it's up from there.
And I love the fact that everyone in Clubhouse is so humble. It's not like you and these people are these are majors, right?
For sure.
And they're not like, oh, don't call me. They're like, hey, back channel me, send me. And I'm like, wow, is it? When did it get this easy that
Mm.
you can back channel one of the majors and say, hey,
For sure.
I want to work with you. Just like
Mm,
the one guy said, he said, hey, what day do you do your show? I say Tuesdays and Thursdays. He was like, put me in. I'm like, really?
mm.
I'm like shocked that a major reached out to me, and I'm the other day I was driving and I got a little emotional because I'm seeing that because I jump into a lot of gospel rooms. A lot
Mm.
of the major gospel artists are
Mm.
their booking managers are reaching out. I'm like, wait a minute. It's scary a little bit. It's a little bit scary, but it's good at the same time. So
That's
uh,
amazing.
I do love the platform. I tell people all the time, and it's very good if you get onto Clubhouse because it can help you grow and network. Now, that with that being said, I did meet your Clubhouse, and it was nice to meet you. But I want you to introduce everyone
For
on
sure.
my platform on who you are. You got the floor.
Okay, cool. So I'm Yui. I'm a songwriter, music producer out of Toronto. Currently, very top 40 in the nature of the music production and songwriting we do. Got a couple songs spinning on a couple of TV networks like ESPN, Disney, VH1, MTV, recently Food Network, Oxygen, and Lord willing, that list will keep going and keep expanding over time. But I guess more relevantly to the show, I have a 7-year background as someone who worked in the member relations department, the last 2 years of which were spent managing it. At SOCAN being the Canadian equivalent of ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC, which, as I'm sure you're well aware, are the performing rights organizations that exist serving the American demographic. So that is the conversation I guess we'll have tonight will be largely centered around that portion of my life and the training that I got from there, and hopefully be able to help with music creators that are tuning in or their management teams that might be tuning in. Uh, if they're curious or uncertain about how it works when a song that they've created in whole or in part is either being aired, streamed, broadcast, or performed live in their own territory or outside of it. So um, there are royalties that obviously should come back to them as the copyright holders of those works that are being broadcast. And that includes streaming platforms like Spotify, YouTube. So if they've got songs that are doing numbers there, my part of my training will help assist them in making sure that those royalties are coming back to them if they act on the advice that I have for them.
I keep telling people, get the money. They leaving the money on the table, and we're not understanding this. They're out making music, and all they know is they're an artist. And I say, y'all are leaving money on the table. If y'all don't want it, just give it to me. It's
Yeah,
just if y'all don't want the money, just give me the money. I said, just give me the money. If y'all, they're not registered properly. They're not even understanding what I said. Do you have a pro? Who is my pro? So with that being said, we're gonna jump right into it.
sure.
What is copyright? What is a copyright, and how important is that?
Sure. Okay. So copyright, first off, is something that, and we'll talk about what that something is, but it belongs to the creator. The minute that whether it's a piece of text, a song, whatever it is, if it's an idea that exists outside of that person's head and they're able to show it in a demonstrable, displayable format, that copyright belongs to the person who made that. Now, what is copyright? Copyright is deceptively plural. There's no S on the end of that word, but what copyright actually is a bundle of rights. So a bundle of rights that are that basically have this all-encompassing, I guess, term that puts it all together. So inside copyright, it's important for music creators to know that they have that there are several different rights in which a song can be monetized, and how money can come back through those streams. Because these days, artists are out here doing a lot. They're the owners of their recording. They are, because they're paying for it, right? They if they pay for the studio time, they pay for the mixing, mastering of it. They own the recording. All they got to do is show invoices, or be able to show that then that they own that recording. Now they're also creators, so also the copyright holders, right? So um, meaning that they're the music creators, and a lot of these artists are also self-published, right? So And lastly, a lot of these artists are also the performers of the songs that they write. So in those three, those are the three big streams of copyright income that can come back, right? So copyright, the first thing to note is that it's a bundle of rights. A bundle of what type of rights? Well, the first one is the first applicable one, and there's about four of them. But like in our situation, a lot for what we talk about, it's going to be three main ones, um, and that's the reproduction right, the performing right, the neighboring right, and the grand right. Okay, so all of these have licensing because they have rights, right? Like when we talk about rights, necessarily we talk about licensing those rights, right? Because that's how people, um, well, they don't own the copyright. How are they allowed to broadcast or use a song that has a copyright on it that doesn't belong to them? Well, they got to license it. So anytime we talk about rights, the people who use the copyright, call them licensees. Okay. Is is there anything that begs clarification, or should I?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
reason why I'm like sitting here, I've been in this industry a long time and I
Okay.
never heard it. Or maybe I wasn't, I don't know, because I take good notes. I've just never heard it being the bundle of, the
Yeah.
way you explained it
Mhm.
is just amazing to me because I never knew there was a bundle of rights. I just knew
Yes.
I was always taught in the industry, okay, you write this song, you get it copyright, you send it off, send it back, okay, it belonged to you.
So
I mean, it's
what you're talking about there is copyright protection. So right, so you own the copyright the minute you. It's like what's the best analogy? It's like you own the house when you buy it, but the deed is what proves it. Right? So it's like so when you make the song, you own it because like that's your idea that you've now put in a way that I can see, whether it's just you recording a voice memo into your phone or whether it's you actually going into the studio and getting it fully recorded. There's a created by date on that, whatever it is that is a manifestation of your idea, musical or visual or otherwise, right? So that date is the date of creation as far as it needs to be proven in a court of law. Now, that copyright belongs to you. Now, why do we talk about things like copyright protection? Well, a lot of the time when you get to court, if there's ever litigation about, an accusation of someone stealing your music, it's about proving you have the earliest version of it. I've heard situations, and this is certainly not the case in Canada, but in the US, I've heard of situations where lawyers won't even take the case unless the song has been put with the US Library of Congress. Now, I'm not, again, because my training was here in Canada and it pertained mostly to that's something that somebody could probably either confirm or correct on my behalf later on with some research. But that that's the whole copyright protection is different from owning the copyright. Copyright protection is like how far are you willing to go to ensure that should a time ever come that you feel like a plausible accusation can be made with regards to someone taking your stuff and using it to, you know, to profit or what have you. You could go after that, but then it's really showing. Okay, do you need to like? Is this something that I can show that I have an earlier version of? Is it all? Does it always have to be a copyright protection in the U.S. Library of Congress? That may depend on the lawyer. Just further to my previous statement that they may not take it on the case, a litigation, unless it has been. But here in Canada, if I have enough showing, for example, like if I make my music on a Mac, there's like created by dates that can't be changed. So though, like, and that's like a commonly known fact, like in the music in the industry, period, right? So I could, if with that information, and let's say I have notes in my phone of lyrics that I wrote, that are that have a certain date on it, created by, edited on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because Mac has all that paper trail inside of it. I could start that litigation with a lawyer here in Canada without having have put it through the official copyright protection of our government. But again, that may be worth a little research over there just to make sure it's true. I've heard of it, especially in the clubhouse. Does the law respect poor man copyright? That's a great question. Are those listeners? Is that how those questions come up? Oh, okay, cool. Okay, I'll go right to that, Anthony, in just
Yeah,
one.
that's how that goes. Like whenever just with the StreamYard, whenever a question come up, I can pop.
Oh, that's super cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's an actual question from our audience. I'll definitely get to that. Um, excuse me, but yeah. So again, and it's a great segue. To be honest, the question that came up was, does the law respect poor man copyright? And it's a great question. I'll segue right into that. Poor man copyright. Now let's just have a solid definition of what that is. It's when you mail something to yourself without opening it with the postmark stamped on it. And I'm only going to be able to talk about it insofar as Canadian law, because again, I'm just going to fall back on the training I have. This may it may be different in the American, but in our case, what our training told us and what we were trained to tell our members on the phone is that while poor man's copyright does everything it needs to do to ascertain when the work came into existence, it doesn't do enough to ascertain to whom that work belongs. So again, we go back to what I was saying earlier about it being levels to proving, and that obviously the burden of proof being on the person who's being on both the person who's making the accusation and the person who's being accused of showing the earliest rendition, earliest obvious version of that song. Now, what ends up happening a lot of the time is if there is proof of that, a major label will often settle out of court. But at the end of the day, that protecting or like going to the U.S. Library of Congress, it's one level of protection. But is it the end all be all? Not always. Even if you have your song at the U.S. Library of Congress, and I can somehow show I have an earlier version than the one you went to the U.S. Library of Congress with. Do you see what I'm saying? Then that 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 level then becomes shaken as something that's that you're trying to use as a piece of proof. Hopefully that helps answer your question, Anthony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that's the same way here in America.
Mm,
We try to sway away from the poor man's right. We want you to go to the library because
mm,
it's just so many laws and rules and things going on here that even me, I tell you, I say, listen, copyright all your music.
mhm,
Even ideas that you have, I always say that. I hear people go on Facebook Live. I'm gonna be selling T-shirts tomorrow, and I'm like, you're putting the name out there. You ain't copyright this name.
mhm.
You ain't put nothing in place. So tonight I could go in and crank up my T-shirt press and start selling this, and there's nothing you can do because there's just going on this live does not make you owner of that particular so a lot of
Exactly.
times we just don't listen, but you know how it is. So here it is: performing, reproduction, neighboring rights, who gets paid under what circumstances. Everybody that's out there performing on live at church and doing all this stuff, who gets the money? Who gets the money?
So when we talk about live performances, we're talking about performing rights right there. So there are let's talk about the what first of all what those rights represent in what context, right? Because anytime we talk about a right, it means somebody wants to license that so that you can get paid as the end result, right? That's the end goal of this whole conversation. So let's first talk about the rights that PROs don't necessarily touch on, because joining, believe it or not, ASCAP, EMI, CSAC, whichever one you chose, is not the complete picture of rights. To make sure that you are ensuring that all of the money that your song is generating can come back to you, and we'll touch on that. So, reproduction rights. Reproduction rights are the rights that end up paying the owners of the recording, so the owners of the master recording, when that song is reproduced. And what does that mean? It means anytime, let's say someone wants to make a cover of it, that is a reproduction of the song. Anytime someone wants to do a remix of it, that's a partial reproduction of the song. Anytime somebody wants to even sample a piece of it, there is what's called a reproduction right that comes into play. Uh, um, Anytime somebody wants to take your song and put it in a video game because they're selling copies of that video game, it's considered a reproduction of your song. Anytime they take your song and put it in a TV show or a film, they've effectively reproduced your song in an audiovisual production, which again is a reproduction right. All of these entail what's called, and you've probably heard it, called sync fees. That sync fee is what should be coming to you out of that reproduction right. That's not something your PRO deals with.
Now here it is. We gotta go slow with that because me and you know what it is,
Okay.
but there may be someone don't know what a sync fee is. So I gotta
Sure.
help the people out that's on here.
Okay. So to back it up, a sync fee is the fee that is due and negotiated either by yourself if you know what you're doing, or the reproduction rights company. In the US, it's the MLC, from what I understand, Mechanical Licensing Collective, I believe they're called. Again, I apologize for being up here. I will just look here and see what this is. Yes, it's the Mechanical Licensing Collective. So they are the people that if you have your music represented by them, or if you put your catalog with them. Let's say I say, hey Kenya, I love that song you wrote. I'm like a documentary filmmaker, let's say, and I say, yo Kenya, I love that song you made. I want to put it in my documentary that I got coming out. You would look at me and being an artist, very talented, obviously, but maybe haven't been in this industry for a long time. You'd be like, oh yeah, I'm flattered, thank you. But you'd have to holler at MLC because I'm just an artist. I don't know how to negotiate that sync license. I don't know how, but I've got my entire catalog represented by the MLC. They'll negotiate the rate with you, and then obviously take a portion of it on the back end for having done the work. But
So just not to cut you off, mechanical license, y'all, mechanical license. And the thing is, a lot of people, and the crazy part about it is, I know we're using big words like sync fee, MLC, and mechanical. These are things that they hold your spot. Mechanical license. This is something that you have to have. I have to have it because I own a radio station and because I play music.
mhm.
So MLC is mechanical license. I just want to say that so y'all kind of know.
Yes. So the mechanical license is the upfront fee that's paid for the usage of basically, again, the taking your song and having to reproduce it in another medium, right? And so that fee is the usage fee, and it's usually either negotiated by if your people know what they're doing, if you've got people on hand who know how to. Usually, it's a publisher that knows how to negotiate a sing fee, right? They're well versed in that if they're experienced publishers. Or it would be if you're independent of a publisher, you would have your catalog again represented the same way you have a PRO representing your catalog for performing rights. You have an agency like MLC representing your catalog for mechanicals, which fall under the reproduction rights umbrella, right? As an artist. And so yeah, and so that's reproduction rights, and it's very important to know that because reproduction rights are what a lot of people end up signing away because they're not clear on the fact that they own that. So if a record label comes to you, and this we might be getting into stuff about what labels don't always want the artist to be clued in about, because what it means is, like, let's say I come to you, Kenya, I say, yo, you're a really talented singer, I love what you're doing, I think we could produce a record, let me put you in the studio, we'll put you in like the nicest studio out in California, and we'll open up a budget for you, it's going to be like and as the young, usually up and coming star that is now, your head swimming with the possibility of recording with these big acts and all of this. Well, if the label's paying for it, they own it. And when you sign off saying that those, all that stuff, they own the masters, they do what they want. So then you end up selling, because this falls under reproduction rights, you end up selling 250,000 copies of that song, and you don't see a dime because you signed the contract agreeing to that recording budget, not knowing that that's what is offered a lot of the time, especially to the artists they really believe in, to ensure that they can get all the mechanicals for the reproduction. So that song makes a video game, bam, in their pocket. That song gets into a movie, bam, in their pocket, not yours, because they own the recording. Now, it's not that you get nothing from it, but equipped with this information and a good lawyer, hopefully, when come time when your contracts come down the pipeline, you know how to negotiate for a much better, uh, a much better position in whatever that agreement looks like. So that's reproduction rights, and it's important to know that that's a right that exists, and it has to do with who owns the recording, right? Because anytime people want to reproduce it, it's got to do with the ownership of the physical the recording, right? Because and it's important to note that because we're going to get into another right that has nothing to do with the recording itself. Okay, so now, so I with reproduction rights, I've that's pretty much as needs to be said. At that point, it would be just ensuring that you have representation for that right, and ensuring that you understand that just signing up with ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC is not the end all be all. It's not the complete picture. There's still a component to it, which is this reproduction right. Okay, then we'll.
All right.
Are there any
All right.
questions
Let me.
before I move
I
on to the
got.
next right? Yeah,
I
sure,
got. I got to backtrack.
sure.
I got questions. It says, "Can you elaborate different types of copyright for writers, publishers, and arrangers?"
Absolutely. And the short answer to that question, Fran, is that it's not there's not a different copyright for writers and publishers. It's the same. Everybody is trying to eat out of the same pot. And these rights that I'm saying right now are the same rights that labels will try to come in and take some of, publishers will try to take some of, and sometimes it's rightfully so, sometimes it's not rightfully so. It depends on the publisher, depends on your situation, depends on where you are in your career at that time, right? So knowing what right these are is enough at least to get you started on, okay, when I see in the contracts they cover or they touch on this, what does that mean exactly? So just to kind of round that off, Fran, what I'm talking about now is copyrights for writers, publishers, and arrangers if they've helped with um, either funding the recording or in the production or creation of it. So this is something that is really just across the board, and it will. And in each of these rights, I'm going to try to really explain who owns it right out the gate, so that you know that, let's say, if you paid for your own recording, you own your masters. You own that unless you go and sign that off to somebody else when you get an offer, and you know, uh, you know, God forbid, don't read it properly before signing it, etc. Hopefully that answers the question. I'm not done, obviously, talking about the different rights, but I will definitely go down the line. So far, we've just covered reproduction rights, and I just want to make sure that we kind of get that and we know how that works before I move on to the next. Because artists knowing what reproduction rights are can now at least have a conversation with a music publisher. They can have a conversation with a record label. They can have about the fact that, hey, I paid for these masters already. I can't just sign that off to you, or I can, depending on what how badly I want to be, um, how badly I want to be part of that label. How likely? Okay, another question from Anthony. How likely is it for a new artist to keep their masters? Um, it would depend on your lawyer, like, and how new is the artist, right? Like at this point, like I think there's nobody who's not cognizant these days of the fact that record labels are trying to get in with somebody who's already got stuff going on, right? So the more you have going on, the better your leverage is, right? The leverage is everything when you enter a negotiation. How much have you already done without the label? Right? Some people come to the table and don't need to have like the label do anything. Like they might say, "Hey, I don't need your recording. I pay for all that. I'm self-funded on that. I don't need no um music production. I have, the homies making the beats, and it's exactly the sound that y'all signed me for, so we don't really got to change, and I can prove it because every show I book has 1,000, 1,500 people lined up at the door, right? So the more proof of concept you can show, the more likely your platform when you're negotiating is higher and higher, and the more likely you can at least argue to keep a percentage of the masters. Now, are you ever going to keep all your masters? Very unlikely, because labels need to make money off you. The whole point of them giving you that marketing and distribution budget is because they know they can make money off you. You're an act that's proven itself. So it's really that balance, and knowing that before you come to the table, and knowing your worth before you come to the table, will at least um and not just your worth, but also how that money, the whole cycle of money works in the music industry, will allow you to at least come to the table with a little bit more information, and a little bit more knowing the value of what you have already, and not accidentally sign away. Like, the whole conversation is it here is, at least if you end up signing away your masters, you know what you're doing and why. Right? Sometimes it might make sense. You might feel like, hey, the boost this move could give me is worth, hey, because I can make another 17,000 hits, because that's how I believe in myself, etc. Right? Like, you could feel like that offer is enough. Hey, take 50% of the master or whatever. But at the end of the day, you'll know why you're making that decision, rather than, oh, I'm just signing it. I'm signing this dotted line, and not knowing that after I sell a quarter million, I'm still getting zip zero for it. That's what I'm trying to help you achieve. Hopefully that answers that.
Next question, pros. And we
Yes.
talked about that. A lot of people, they don't know what a pro is. Because
Yeah.
I'll say, who is your pro? And they say, what is that? So
Mhm.
how do they work and why do they matter?
Okay, so let's talk about that. If reproduction rights is something we can now set aside and move on from, then this is the perfect segue, because PROs deal with another set of rights called the performing right. The performing right is the right that pays the music creator, so whether that's the composer or the author and the music publisher, when that song is being aired, streamed, broadcast, or performed live in their own territory, in your territory, or internationally, right? And this is where the bulk of my training is. It really is on how to ensure that all performing rights. So performing rights, I mentioned at least four different ways of performing rights coming back to you, right? These are the royalties that come from your music being aired, streamed, broadcast, or performed live. Okay. Now, how does that money come about, right? There's a question is, okay, well, like, okay, I hear every time my song is played on the radio, I should get some money, but like, how does that money come about? Where's that money coming from? Right? That's a lot of the questions, right? So how it works is radio stations, TV stations, bars, clubs, and now YouTube, Spotify, they're broadcasting and making money, obviously, off of broadcasting this music that doesn't belong to them, right? Radio stations broadcasting this stuff along with their to get advertising, right? To get people interested in buying advertising time on these platforms. TV stations do the same thing, and radio stations, open mic. Like, can you picture a bar or club without music? Impossible, right? But none of that music belongs to that bar or belongs to that club. So what that means is they all have to pay. We're going back to the beginning of the conversation: licenses, licensing fees for the right to be using, broadcasting, airing, broadcasting, streaming, performing in their venue music that doesn't belong to them. So this thanks to copyright law that's been set up in obviously several countries, and usually the more developed the country, the better the copyright laws that are in place. Um, they've worked out that, hey, these radio stations, these TV stations need to be paying for this kind of thing. So they've set this up as what's called a performing rights organization, to have these entities pay license fees to these PROs, ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC in the US, right? And out of these licensing fees, it's the responsibility of ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC to disperse back to the music creators, whether that's that's the composer or the author, or the music publisher, as the case may be, all these performing rights royalties. So that's how that money exists. That money exists now. Now, how do you ensure you get your fair share? Well, you got to ensure that you are, first of all, signed up with a PRO, performing rights organization. Then, after you've signed up, you ensure that they know all of the aliases that you're performing under, all the performer names and the spellings, and even some potential misspellings. Because how it works is all this data comes in. Anytime a licensee, so remember, licensees are TV stations, radio stations, bars, clubs. When they sign this agreement to pay licenses to PROs, they have to also provide data. So radio stations provide what's called radio logs to ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC that tell ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC what music was used every day. So that ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC know who to pay out for that kind of radio play. For TV, the producers of those TV shows, so whether that's your CSIs, your Real Housewives, your all the way down to sports programming, you have music supervisors that are responsible and producers of those TV shows and that TV programming that's responsible for putting all of that information in what's called cue sheets. Cue sheets detail the usage of your music in their programming. This is the information that a lot of artists don't have, and they're not tracking. They're not able to stay on top of that. And as a result, they either don't get royalties or they get a lot less than they're due. Why? Well, let's say I was I was the producer of a TV show, and I used Kenya's music in my programming. And here I am, not really understanding how to fill out a cue sheet, or maybe I'm a new producer or whatever, and I fill it out wrong. Instead of saying Kenya's song was used as the theme music, I said Kenya's song was used as background music. That usage type difference, if I noted it wrong, which happens all the time, will result in you getting significantly less money. Same song, same time. But if I said that your music was used in the background of my TV show, that's a lot less money. Background music is just music that's played in the background. Theme music is music that's used in the credits. That usage is
like my
different.
intro.
Like that intro, yes.
I should be paying. Oh,
Yes. So no, it's not that you should be paying. It's that if StreamYard, your intro happens on StreamYard, right? This is where you do it. StreamYard, I don't know if it's a licensed platform. If it is, it should be paying a licensing fee to ASCAP, BMI, and or CSAC. And what that means is you could be submitting cue sheets for your show, this show, if this is how they pay it out, because they may not consider this broadcast to be a television broadcast, right? So it's different. But in that case, yeah, you would fill out a cue sheet, just like, let's say this goes on TV. Your production team, you would have someone there responsible for filling out every episode that you put on what music you used here. And then that way people could get paid, because this platform might be paying licensing fees. And for sure, if it's a television thing, it definitely is. So that's something the artists need to know to stay on top of producers and make sure that when they submit the cue sheet, like, hey, look at your statements. Your statements will tell you how that music was used, right? The statements you get from your PROs. So make sure that the producers, like, you should know, right? When your song is being used, you know what capacity it was used. Make sure it's well noted, because if not, you stand to lose a lot in the tracking of that.
so can I segue off of our talking points?
Sure.
Just a minute, and we'll go back to it.
Sure.
Split sheets. So if I go to a producer and I say, I take my song to a producer and I want to sing this song, and I take it to him and I say, hey, I want to sing this song. Sing this song, and I bring it to you. But you, as the producer, because that's what you do, you say, well, hey, I think that you should change up this and make it like this. At that point, because even though I brung you the song, do you get royalties from that because you made a change somewhere along the line or added a beat? Or
there's no hard and fast rule for that. It's just what you guys agree on, right?
Okay.
You might say, hey, I am paying you now for work for hire to create around my song, and as such, because I'm compensating you for your time now, there's no like I intend to keep all the royalties for myself. right? But in a situation where you might be relying on someone's, extra help, or sometimes you may not be able to fully afford the costs of the production or whatever it is. You might come to an agreement with a producer that really believes in you. Hey, let's work together, and I will, and there's no rule about that. It's just what you guys agree on. So it's always good, for myself, anytime I work with people who are, that even people that I know well, right, that are my partners and frequent collaborators. It's still always good to have an agreement ahead of time so that everyone knows what they're in for before getting down to it.
Right, because there's a point where you can ask for on the back end when the music start playing on radio. Then next thing you know, both of you guys are receiving money, especially when the artist is not aware of the industry. And you're say not saying you, but you're well diverse in this business. So and I always tell people you got to be careful with that because you don't really even know whether or not you're getting royalties from it because the producer, most of them are very they know their business.
Yeah,
And you go in and you don't have the conversation and you're trying to figure out I haven't received one dime from this 99 cent that was being spent. And the producer's getting all the money. He says, well, you know that little tweak I did? Even though you paid me $2,000 to come into the studio, I tweaked it. So now you owe me money. And I hear that all the time. That's why I say I hear that all the time that the producers are getting more of the money because of a tweak.
yeah, so it would depend on the producer and it would depend on the artist. I think a lot of that has to do with, I guess, what producers feel like their contribution is worth. I would advise if producers want to do that, there's a way to do it. And it's like, hey, I have an idea that I think could really push the track forward and improve things. But if I'm going to put my idea in there, I'd like X some percent for my contribution. That's an easy conversation to have, and you're welcome to say no. And if you say right, like at that point, it's become very clear that hey, if you don't want that idea, you think everything is good the way it is, you're not interested in hearing it, then I'm not, then I don't have to. But like, if there's any interest in hearing it, right, and you end up using it, then I think it's only fair that my creative contribution is acknowledged, and and I think it depends on right, but I think at the end of the day, right, the paperwork is what's super important. Once that's there, producers, record A&Rs, anybody you show that to, will definitely know you're about your business and won't feel like they can take advantage of you. That's the impression that artists should work harder to cultivate, I think, because that makes them a lot more bulletproof in that sense when it comes to things, and able to protect themselves and their precious creations, which I don't say lightly, and I don't say because they work very hard making this stuff, and you see it, really, all the efforts and the way the system's set up to kind of take that from them, with and keeping them in the dark about what that really is. uh I don't know if they're going to come get me for this, but I feel like people should know.
They're not gonna come get you. You're fine. You're
I'm in
protected,
Canada.
well
I'm
protected over here.
protected.
Yeah, you're protected. You're protected. Actually, that's where StreamYard is at. I
Mm,
watch their town hall meeting every Sunday night. They're from Canada, and their little mascot is a duck
mm.
because I guess that's you guys thing. I don't know. Anyway,
I guess that's our thing. I guess it is.
I guess that's the thing. They love the duck.
Yeah.
So let's just how to ensure royalties and sync fees are coming back to you as copyright holders, owners of recordings. What the labels don't want you to know. Now, this is the good part about it, y'all. This is what y'all need to be tuned into on the live and on the replay. Give me some hearts for this one because I want to know too.
Okay, so the first things first is that the labels don't want you to know that if you've invested in your own recordings, that you own them already. That there's already a price tag attached to that if a label comes and wants to, um I guess, sign you. That needs to be something you know the value of, and you know how to make clear in a conversation if you're ever at the table with a record label. So point number one is definitely understand that if you funded your own recording of your song, that is something that makes you the owner of your own masters unless you sign an agreement saying otherwise. And definitely before signing anything, just because of the way, I'm not saying again, we all speak English, but the way the English is set up in a lot of these contracts is very confusing, and it's not that it's meant to be, but this is just legal speak. And when you are in that situation, it's always best to consult a lawyer anytime you're presented with a contract. It's worth that little bit of upfront investment to ensure that you're not losing as much on the back end as you've seen a lot of artists lose. So that's definitely um, something to understand. Now, a lot of the other parts of understanding that is understanding that you also own your own publishing, right? You don't need to have a publisher unless that publisher is really representing your catalog in a way that can get the placements that you're looking to get, right? There's nothing worse than being signed just to be shelved. And that is something that in order to avoid, anytime you get a contract, before you get excited, get educated, meaning do your research on that publisher. What placements have they had? What was their last placement? Who else do they represent in the catalog? Are you a big fish in a little pond or a little fish in a big pond? Do you see what I'm saying? If uh if you wanted to be in let's say in a star-studded catalog and you're an entry level, you got great stuff, but you just started, but the rest of all the artists on that publishing cast is like the A-listers, and you're just happy to be on the roster. Well, that's nice, but do you know when the resources are by the time they trickle down to you, what that's gonna look like? Right? Because they're gonna like if I've got a star-studded cast and you're just starting to come in, and I remember I'm looking at my stuff as a business. I've only got X amount to spend per year on promoting my people. How are you gonna get any of that budget? You're gonna get washed. The attention that you should be getting is gonna get washed by the attention that I'm giving my star-studded cast. You can right? It's only natural to feel like you wanna be in the presence of greatness, so you sign with XYZ label thinking, "Oh my god, like, they've got such and such person. I love them. They sell X cop, like, the label's gonna make sure I do too." No. Or maybe, but you gotta make sure that that's the case. You gotta have your people in place, and that goes back to, like, how to ensure royalties and sync fees are coming back to you as copyright. Ensure you've tapped in on a regular basis with someone who knows the business. Doesn't have to be me, and it certainly doesn't have to be someone as expensive hourly as a lawyer, but it should be someone who understands the playing field. It should be someone who could talk to you the way I am right now about, "Hey, so you have a great song. I agree. Now what? Now what?" Right? So, knowing what to do after you have that knowing that roadmap comes with knowing right where money's coming from in the first place so you can set goals, right? Like with some of the people that are kind of free basis, that's what we do. We look at, hey, okay, I want my song to get on Fox Sports. I know, for example, that they're looking right now through my own connections, not saying me, but like let's say that artist comes to me telling me that, saying, hey, I know Fox Sports is looking, I'm in touch with them. How do I make sure that or give myself a better chance at getting this? Well, I mean, this is just an example of a question, right, that I could be getting from one of the people I work with. Um, well, it's working backwards. These are tangible. We have tangible, objective references we can use. So the first thing we would do is we would turn on Monday Night Football, Fox Sports, any Fox Sports programming, and just look at what kind of music they use for it. What do they use when they're going to commercial? What kind of music do they use? And then can we make that? Does your voice have that feel to it that matches whatever style of music, whether that's country, pop, urban, whatever it is, hip hop? Like, can we get that from you, your vocal performance? If not, then we know right away to switch gears and not waste time. Maybe your stuff is better suited to MTV's Catfish than Fox Sports. And then you may know some, or I may know some music supervisors from my time, and then that's how a lot of my artists and I work together, and whether it's just consulting or in the artist development of what it is we do, because it really is the whole thing is, by the time you get in front of an A&R, how prepared are you to have that conversation? How prepared are you? Are you the type of person that freezes up and you don't even know it, right? There's so much to being an artist nowadays, that really is just about, to go back to the question, how to ensure royalties. It's just about ensuring that you've built up enough of yourself to have a bargaining chip when you get to the table, to me, right? So going back to the initial conversation, the more you have in let's say your EPK already looks like you're a rock star. People are coming out every night. You've got more shows booked than you can handle. Well, let me tell you something. The label's going to come to you, and you're going to be able to say, well, what do I really need you guys for? Other than a little bit of marketing, a little bit, but I don't see that as a reason to sign over all my masters to you. I'm already doing okay without you.
And
The
so,
conversation changes once you've done more for yourself.
so let me just ask you about that because you said that, and I tried to make so many artists understand the look. We had the conversation when you came on, and immediately say to people when they see me today versus when they see me on my headshots are totally different than what I look like on a normal day because I don't have the long hair and the makeup artist and everything that goes with glitz and glam. But how important is that when we, like you said, the EPK looking like you're a rock star from the gate? How important is that? I mean, is that important when you're sitting to the table, or can we just still do things on our cell phone because it says iPhone and just giving half?
It's content, right? It depends on your content. So, um, I think a lot of it is in whatever your most creative way of showing that you're already doing enough. That would make a record label feel like that's something to align ourselves with that can make us some money. How do I say? Yes, obviously, the more like you already like you've done their work, you look, the better your chances. Because it's like, okay, well, they already looked the part. I don't have to invest a hair, makeup, wardrobe to these. They already know aesthetically what it is they're doing, and that makes coming to the table a lot easier for you, because obviously the meetings will be easier to book the minute it looks like you're well put together. And a lot of that stuff is really just the the highlights of your career. Do those stand out? It's like a resume, right? It's like what, and a lot of people might be on here say, well, what if I don't want to sign to a label? That's fine. But remember, even if you're booking shows, South by Southwest, all the festivals, they're going to want to see a EPK. That EPK is going to be what makes or breaks, right? Along with the social media to verify that you're still active, and but that EPK is like your headshots, your and for public figures, it really would behoove them to uh look like what they are presenting in their EPK anytime they're in public, because there's a you're not, right, like, when we think of the stars, we know exactly what they look like, and it's not by accident, right? When we think of Lil Wayne, when we think of Pharrell, when we think of, like, you know, Jay-Z these days with it really is something we know right away visually. We know in our heads what that looks like, right? Even when Drake just dropped his record, Certified Lover Boy, he did the heart in his hair to going around like that to match what was on his album cover, right? So, and that's even someone like Drake creating that, kind of like visual connection, right? So it really, it just speaks volumes on how important it is for artists these days to know that people see you before they hear you, and they base whether or not they want to hear you on what they see. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, yeah, okay.
That
So
makes that makes sense.
yeah,
That
that's exactly what it is nowadays. So yes, when you ask about the importance of the EPK, yeah, unless you've got content like the way, Bobby Shmurda had it when he came out. He had records that weren't even quantized, right? So like, but like the content was so right? Like if you're a Pop Smoke type, like sometimes that stuff doesn't even have to be that well produced, but the content, the hype overtakes the need for that. Whereas I think with most artists that are coming out the gate that may not have that level of support in their communities or what have you, they do need to put together. I've heard of artists even having to fake it before they make it. Like they have to invite people to the show, as almost as paid extras to the gig, with free food and free booze to make sure they come out so that they can look like they have a lot of people so they can shoot it for the, like a video and make it seem like to the labels that they got a lot going on. And obviously you're gonna have elements that you have to embellish, but the less you have to embellish and the more real it is, the more real leverage you have when you come time to have these conversations. Because if it's just a facade, these labels know how to take that apart. You know what I'm saying? So like, don't buy your followers, don't buy your all those views and all that stuff. Don't do it, because when they come, they're gonna want to see that in action and live. You can't fake those numbers. People don't come out. You buy like 1 million followers and then 7 people leaving comments every time you post. They're gonna see that.
I don't understand. I can never get that on Instagram where you have, and it just doesn't match to me. Like you have, they're buying their likes, right? And what happens is a lot of people that's probably their live doesn't even know that exists
Exactly.
because they didn't even know you could buy followers on YouTube, and
Right.
it's not organic. And they have like 1,200 likes and
Mhm.
2 comments. Like, so you mean to tell me 1,200 people like this and they couldn't even say nice?
Yeah.
Even with Facebook now, Facebook have made us lazy. You don't have to do anything because Facebook now looks at the content that you're putting out and it gives you the comment. It tells you Facebook gives you the comment. It's like you look at a picture like, oh, thank you for sharing. It's lazy. So when people say you have all this stuff and it doesn't match, I'm like, Facebook have made us really, really. I go through Facebook. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Like,
I'm like, oh yeah, I do it. Just look at it and just thank you for sharing. They put all the emojis and everything in it. So social
mhm,
media has made us really, really lazy. But at the same time, we can buy anything we want, but it's not organic.
mhm.
So what he's saying is, I'm just giving y'all a little insight. It's not organic. Yes, that's why I say, hey, subscribe to my YouTube. I had to start over, and because YouTube is real touchy sometimes,
Mhm.
and I could go and buy some subscribers, but I don't want to. I want it to be organic so that I can get what I need to get. So let's segue. I'm sorry, before we go, you good with that?
No, I was just gonna say, like, what I think labels want to see ultimately is engagement, because it's only with engagement, real engagement, that can convert into something monetized, into a transaction, right? Whether that's fans buying your merch, right? Chance the Rapper and his hat with the three on it sold, like, he sold more of that than he did his music, right? Whether it's that, or whether it's copies of the actual music, or whether it's even these fans coming out to your show when you perform, like that engagement ultimately is what leads to conversion in the eyes of these labels. And they're not wrong. They have to look at it as a business, right? A lot of the time these artists focus on music, but they're not really focused on the business. And when that isn't properly married, and that's a dysfunctional household, and one's getting overlooked and one's not, right? Then it never, that balance gets tilted, and you miss out. You miss out.
And I tell people all the time, engage. I try to engage as much as possible because this thing called an algorithm that we just don't understand. That is the machine that keeps us going. So when I see someone post on Facebook, they starting a business, having a baby, anything they're doing, I try to Facebook doesn't even respect that like button anymore. They'll tell you to love it. They tell you in their classes, they say, listen, we made it where we want to check to see how lazy people are. So what happens is like it's easy, but to love it, it puts in a little bit more work,
There you go.
and it people don't get it. So now when I see someone, you can have 1,000 hearts and one like, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what I'm looking at because I travel to go to these classes with Facebook and Instagram. And I'm like, man, why you couldn't just heart that? I appreciate what they're giving me. I'm like, why you just couldn't heart it? So I could have had all hearts.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but So the engagement, that's another thing that is really, really important, guys that are listening on the live and on the replay. I just want to reset the screen. I want to reset real quick. I know I don't own Clubhouse, but I've gotten used to doing that on Facebook.
For sure.
So we are here today with, here it is. I'm going to show y'all who he is. He is the CEO of Track Ops Music. They create, record, ignite. Track Ops he's a songwriter, producing group based out of Toronto. Listen, we all up in Canada, y'all. Thank God for we all up in Canada. They specialize in top 40, pop, urban dance, hip hop, R&B, and we're gonna make them start doing a little gospel. We're gonna push your gospel.
I
We're gonna,
love
you
it.
know, and again, we have the MTV, TSN, the Food Network, Omni TV, just to name a few. And again, it is him and his partner that is running this. That's him, the tall one, and the other guy's the short one.
You're
And
not that short. I'm just taller than I should be.
you should tell him you should be.
Yeah.
So again, his music has been played all across Toronto. Again, most of the songs we probably won't know the people because most of the people that's on tonight is gospel. And again, he can help you with composing, producing, arranging, writing top line lyrics and melody, mixing, mastering. And again, you can always reach out and contact him if you would like to have more information. Again, we do have his information here that you can always reach out to him. I met him on Clubhouse. He was in the Clubhouse, and I think they give you 30 seconds to introduce yourself. I think it is 30 seconds. And in 30 seconds, I was intrigued in what he was saying. I was like, hey, listen, I got to get you up on my platform to talk to the people because this is so important. I think what happens is everybody wants to, what we call in the gospel arena, leaving it on the floor, dumping the house, and singing the house down till we don't have the education part. And we're leaving so much money out there on the table, and we're not registered properly. We don't know what pros are. We're not registered with the mechanical license, the MLC. We're not registered as artists on Spotify. So there's so many things that we're not doing. Now, not everybody. I ain't gonna say that because I want y'all to call me later and say I said everybody. I say some of y'all, some of y'all have no clue that you have to be registered with Spotify in order to really get that check. To get the check, you have to do things. So tonight we invited him here so that he can speak to you guys. We got one more question left, and he's gonna go back to Canada time, and I'm gonna go back to American time.
How to get
How do
help?
you
Okay.
how do you get help?
How to get help when you get an offer? Okay. So this is a really to me, I would say, straightforward one. If it's anytime you get an offer coming across your table, the first people to call is a lawyer. If it's a contract, it's a lawyer. Right away, right away, right away. And again, we just spoke about how that could be an upfront, 2, 3 hour investment, paying a lawyer's fee. But if you intend to sign it, if you have any intention of engaging in this business agreement with this publisher, record label, even if it's a booking agency offering you a contract, to book concerts for you, whatever it is, please ensure that before you decide whether it was good for you or not, you have somebody professional look at it, and that's always going to be an entertainment lawyer. Even me, if I'm talking, unless it's something very standard that I've signed before, through my own experience or whatever, then that's the only time I'll be like, okay, this looks okay. But if there's anything that's just even a little bit out of my purview in that sense, it's lawyer right away. I'll tell anybody. It's like, yeah, it might seem like I'm sending you away, or like you might have to, pay their fee and mine, but trust me, that fee is going to make sure that it's locked. That fee makes sure that, like, if there's anything in there that's suspicious, anything in there that's weird, that gets right away taken out. Or you just don't sign it, right? If the other side is not willing to, have the negotiation about, some of these terms looking a little weird, can we maybe change like a sunset clause on this thing where after this work is returned to my catalog, and let's say 3-year term, that you're still making money for a year or two after that. Like, that makes no sense. And if you can identify that that's there, that should be a point of negotiation. and that usually, hopefully, is something that the lawyer will tell you, and definitely worth um, paying for, in my opinion.
So here it is, guys. He has broken it down for you with the copyrights. He have given y'all some real good nuggets tonight, and we did it in 105 minutes. That's good.
So,
He
yeah,
did it 100. Want to send a shout out to D Gillis. He said great conversation. Bless 13th disciple. He listen. Let me tell you about 13th disciple. Him and his wife is a gospel duo, and they do hip hop gospel.
oh,
I'm a,
nice,
I'm going to send you over a couple of their songs so that you can listen.
cool,
They are they are hot on the track. When I'm telling you, it's just sometimes you just I get in the van and
yeah,
um, I'll send you some of their music so that you can take a listen. And maybe you can send me a couple of the Canadian gospel radio stations and we can get some of this American music over there
for
to let you
sure,
do it.
for sure,
Send a shout out to
yeah,
Fran. Listen, Fran is a duo also, Rod and Fran Music. Another group that
cool,
I just had on my show recently as well.
excellent,
Sunray, thank you for charity. And she came. She's excited that you came in. She's a gospel promoter out of Miami. Stuart Styles. Let me tell you, that man is a beast with this thing right here. He will bless you.
okay,
He will
cool,
bless you. And Anthony Towton, we call him the teddy bear because I tell you, the man, he can sing. He can sing. So, and
that's
again, Cameron D. Wallace, he joined me tonight. He is a producer out of West Palm Beach, Florida, and he's doing some great things in the community.
that's
So I think what
amazing.
we got to do is we have to. He says humble salute. I'm gonna send you his music. I'm gonna send you some music over so you could you could be like, hey, I love this.
For sure.
Again, like
And
I told you, I gotta
obviously,
get you this.
whoever you see there in the listenership that could use more conversation, always let them know. Feel free to tap in with me. That's definitely the bulk of my training professionally. So definitely happy to help with wherever it's needed.
Yeah, we got to bring you here for one of our workshops to hang out with us. We do workshops here in South Florida. We got to
Oh,
get you
cool,
to South Florida. Like we're doing one next year in Miami, and well, Fort Lauderdale, Miami area,
cool.
and you'd be good to sit on the panel because it's this is so important, and I think this is the piece that we're missing. This is what, even though I sat through the clubhouse, and I think the clubhouse was from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock.
Hmm.
You understand? So from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, right? But out of everyone, you grabbed my attention because what you were talking about was royalties. And I think that we're lacking in that, in the gospel arena, not understanding the royalties. They're putting out songs every 6 months, even though that sometimes it's not being played on radio, but just the fact that it's streaming. And I understand they're streaming on Spotify, they're streaming on all these platforms. They're not understanding that there's money out there that y'all
So
missing.
much, so much, and then that's why they say the music industry is so tough to hack it in. And a lot of it is just due to this lack of awareness and lack of knowledge that's purposely, in my opinion, made inaccessible or tough to access. Like, imagine how many people have jobs like I had. How many people get to? It's almost like getting to work for the CIA or the government. You see what I'm saying? It's like knowing those, getting to know the ins and outs like that about the music industry is that's not a curtain that gets pulled back for everybody. So I just feel like I'm in a position of wanting to ensure that um, at least on a surface level, I try to cover something like this as much as possible. Like I would never feel like that's something that I would want to keep to myself. Obviously, there are people who need more individual one-on-one attention, and they tap in with me for a once a week over a month. That's a different story. But anytime it's something general blanket like this, I just want to make sure as many people get the info as possible so that they could at least get a head start on thinking about how to have money coming back in when they put music out. Right, there's for every output there should be input output, right? You're putting money into or music into the world like that, there should be money coming out of it.
Exactly. So listen, everybody's asking how can I get in contact. So here it is. His email, I showed y'all before. I'm gonna show y'all again. There it is. That's him right there.
My goodness.
That is him. And I'm just gonna show the contact information. That's where he live at. Let's make music. Contact us today. The phone number that is here is again is 888-846-4846.
Yeah, don't let's can I just give an Instagram to everybody? Is it possible?
Okay.
If you just put at Track Ops Media, that's me. And then I answer all questions in there. I'll make a post
Okay.
in there. Everybody can reach me through there. This is just the site I use when I talk about music production. This whole royalty thing kind of came about when this whole Clubhouse thing came about. So I realized there was a need for this as I started coming in and out of these rooms. I realized there were so-called entertainment attorneys, people who were in the in the music industry that were saying all kinds of stuff that I don't remember hearing in my training or was outright wrong. So I'm like, yo, that's kind of it's a lot for artists to take in. Sometimes these people are not very accessible themselves. They put on a room and then they cut. So I guess I'm just here to kind of from a ground level share the information I have to hopefully make everybody's navigation of this music industry a little easier.
Okay. Okay. So there it is, guys. Track Ops Music, right?
Yeah,
Did I do
yeah.
that right?
Just I'm gonna send you this one real quick. I apologize for not being
You can.
organized.
Okay.
At Track Ops Media is the best one because that's where everything is going now, and I'll be officially launching I guess a consultation service there on Track Ops Media at some point soon. Right now it's just
Okay. So
yeah.
there you go. So I
Sorry
put it in the
guys.
chat. I put it in the chat. It's now going across all of my social media outlets. We are streaming live through Facebook, Twitter, Twitch,
For sure.
and YouTube. So we're streaming live on everything tonight, so that we can make sure we get it out. I need you guys to follow him. Follow him on IG. Follow him on IG, and he follows back, and I like that. Follow him because he follow back. A lot of times you follow people, they don't follow back. And if you're in the clubhouse, follow him in the clubhouse. I think it's you. The name is.
UEC.
I'm gonna take it down so you see it. So it's UEC in the clubhouse. So if you are a member of Clubhouse, which is they have all these groups, and again, that's where I met him at in Clubhouse. And I love the fact that you came on. You could have said, "Listen, I'm a producer and I work with this person and this person, little girl. I'm not coming on your little platform." But
No,
he was very. Hey, listen. Listen. You know me. I procrastinate sometimes. I'm doing 101 things. He inbox. He's like, "Hey, are we still on?" I'm like, "Yeah." Let me get into that. So that goes to show me that he's very humble. And my prayers and my blessings to you and your business and endeavors. And may God
thank
take you and land you wherever you want to land that plane at.
you. Amen. Amen.
Wherever you want to land that plane at, I need you to take off. And we right here. And again, because this is a gospel platform, I know the prayers of the righteous of everybody that is here tonight
Thank
is
you.
praying our blessings over you.
I grew up in
Deacon,
church too. I grew up in church. I grew up going to church too. I have a few old favorites of gospel, but it's nothing current anymore. Like I remember like the cross movement as a hip hop head, listening to some of that grits. They who else? I listened to some Matt Redman. Hillsongs was a publisher
yes.
that I know of. So I have a friend that opened for Lecrae. I don't know if you know Never Heard, the rapper.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that was at the Doves, right? 2 years ago.
it could have been. It might not have been as recent as that, but he was.
Yeah,
If you know of a Toronto rapper that opened for
yes,
Lecrae, that was my uncle.
yes,
Yeah, his name's Never
yes.
Heard.
I remember that.
I
So
appreciate.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I love that. I love how there's always so much celebration in the gospel community when when it comes to music. It really uh, in the music industry is no secret. All the top artists, the top singers come out of church, so it is. I can only imagine when you say there's a huge talent pool, there's a lot going on, but it's a lot of potential that needs to be harnessed in this capacity so that they can make the most out of their careers. And not fall short of what God is calling them to do in that capacity, because that takes resources. If church can take an offering, you can go get your royalties, right?
And listen,
Right?
let me tell you, right? People think I'm crazy, and I'm out here screaming exposure. And
Mm,
I do management, and I do radio servicing. And I
mm,
tell people all the time, like, listen, guys, we got to get even if we're sitting it doesn't matter about the little people, little as much. Start with the little people, saturate your area, right?
got it.
And let people know who you are. So when you're in a grocery store, people know who you are. Like, hey, I know you. You sing that song. Right now I built my brand under my name. My name is
Mhm,
Kenya
mhm.
C. Wheeler. I
Right.
won't answer to anything else. If you call me Kenya Wheeler, I would not answer you. If you don't call me Kenya C. Wheeler, I have branded myself. And I am the CEO. So what happens is people started calling me the CEO. That's my name. When they see me, if they call me Kenya, that's because they either went to school with me or they're my family.
They're your
But
family. Yeah,
everywhere I go, they say CEO because I branded that. I
no
let
doubt.
them know I am the CEO.
No
So
doubt.
you have to demand it out here in this world. You have to demand it so
Mhm.
that when you go other places. Now I'm coming to Toronto. Just to let you know that I'm
Please
coming to
pull up.
Toronto.
Pull up. I got
So
you. We'll
I'm
hang out.
coming to Toronto. I listen. I travel all over this United States, but I'm coming to Toronto so I can
Please.
come and just hang out at your studio because I
We'll
really
do a
do
live
appreciate you.
podcast. We'll do a live podcast right here together. It'll be great.
Wait a minute. Does it get cold there? Because I can't do the cold. I don't do cold weather.
It's no Florida. I mean, it does it in this come in the summer. I think you'll be fine if you come in the summer.
Okay, because I don't like the cold. I don't like the latest I try to travel is October because the cold
Yeah.
in my bones. I'll be 47 next Monday,
Oh,
and I
I
think
couldn't
when
tell. I couldn't tell.
you know I hit 45, right?
I bet
I just
your viewership think you're younger than me though, for sure.
you know when I say that when I everybody was I did a 46th birthday last year and I had posted that I was doing a virtual party and everybody's like, oh, you got so many jokes. I was like, I'm really turning 46. I
Yeah,
don't act like I'm 46. That's kind of reason why, because I'm a big kid still.
best
But
way to be.
and they're like, you're not 40. I said, I am, man. I just play around a lot because I have a lot of fun. Life too short to be serious all the time. Now when it
I
comes down to
agree.
business, I'm serious. Fran says she coming with me. Fran's gonna come
I
with
love
me. We're
that.
gonna
I
come to
love that.
Canada and we're gonna come and hang out.
Y'all
So
all
listen,
welcome.
we're not going to hold you. I want to thank you so much for everybody on the live on the replay. I know I'm going to see you in Clubhouse. Just like last night, I'm gonna tell y'all something. For the last 2 days, we have been sitting on Clubhouse for almost 10 hours a day because of an artist and a manager and a producer are fighting over money. And I've literally been on, and I saw you on because it tell me you on. We've been on listening to back and forth about money. And I'm telling you, you have to get your affairs in order because now they're not talking about a little bit of money. They talking about money.
Money,
60, $70,000.
it's money, money.
That's money, money.
That's money, money.
I got $10 in my wallet. That if I lose that, I'll be like, oh man, I lost my $10.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
for somebody to lose $100,000, that's like,
That's money, money. Yeah, you're in
yeah.
the big leagues, buddy.
So yeah, that's real big. So, listen, guys, I do want to thank you so much again. If you ever need me, I'm here. You give me a call. Like I said, if you're in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach area, give me a
For
call so
sure.
that we can link up as well. And I just want to if you want to say anything to my people before you leave, feel free.
Guys, thank you all for tuning in tonight. I appreciate you listening. Hopefully, it was helpful. And if there's anything else, please at Track Ops Media to reach me. I'm happy to carry on with anybody individually if there's a need. Cheers.
All right. So, good night. Thank you so much, and lovely having you. Listen, y'all. Listen, I done gave y'all the meat and potatoes. I done gave y'all the meat and potatoes. I done gave y'all the whole meal. Again, I need you guys to follow him on IG. I'm gonna tell you why. Because he follows back. He actually follows back. He could be like, I ain't following y'all, but he do. Track Ops Media on Instagram. So listen, I know that y'all saying it's Sunday night and what is she doing? So I'm gonna let y'all go. I gotta go home so I can have dinner. I know it's late, but I gotta get home, and I want to once again thank you guys for tuning in. Be right back here Tuesday. Not Tuesday. I'll see you guys Thursday. We got a great show lined up. Again, I want to say good night.